911 operators of Reddit, what was the most vague call you've ever received? No longer a dispatcher, but was for 15 years. I answered a 911 call from a cell phone that only indicated a sector direction the call was coming from and the tower that the call was bouncing off of. Basically no valid location information. Initially it sounded like a butt dial situation, but I stayed on the line a little longer trying to refresh the call for better location information. As I was listening, it sounds like a loud TV and some muffled noises in the background, so I stayed on longer than I would have. I was finally able to narrow the location down to about 3 football fields and searched in-house records for the phone number. At this point there was still no communication except in the background. Then I heard what was one single clear call for help. I couldn't tell if it was the TV or a person though. I already entered a vague call to check the area and kept updating officers with further info. Eventually we narrowed it down to one road that had one house surrounded by businesses, so officers went to the house. Found that there was a teenage boy and a little brother or sister that were held tied up by parents. I tried to search for the news report but can't recall enough details. Thankfully I didn't give up, won the call too soon, and the children were rescued. Thank you. Just because a person calls doesn't always mean they can talk. You are a hero. It's hard to say. We get vague calls all the time and people hardly answer when you call back. Mostly send the police, and that's it. Luckily sometimes people will say they shot him or something along those lines then hang up. My favorite type of caller. You don't need the address, just fricking send the cops already. But I work in bank security but receive alert line calls from bank staff, which is essentially the same as 911 operators would receive. I had a call at midnight and it was this guy who started off by saying, "Is this a secure line? I think they're listening." Yes sir. This line is secure. Okay, I just can't be too careful. Listen, I think they're onto me. Weird things are happening at work. I'll get weird pop-ups on my computer, on all of the computers. I don't know what to do. Okay sir, just take a breath and talk me through what's going on. Strange things. I don't know. I'm not sure. Too many coincidences, they don't make sense. I think my bosses are planning something, but I won't contact the police. Why won't you contact the police? I think they're involved, and they won't listen to me anyway. Something's happening but I don't know what it is yet. Then I heard in the background, "What the heck are you doing down here? Come back to bed. Give me the phone." He argued for a second and gave over the phone. "Hi, sorry about this, I'm Frank's wife. I don't know what he's been telling you but he's just very stressed at the moment. Don't worry about anything he's said. He told me he was going to get water and I found him downstairs calling you guys. I'll make sure he's okay. Thanks, bye." Okay. Take care of him. Bye. Was very surreal. Sounds like Frank was having a delusion. Some rambling followed by a clear "There's a bomb on the train" followed by a click. Middle of the night when it's supposed to be quiet. And I was only working there for about a month at that point, as a railway police dispatcher. Definitely got me from feeling groggy to fully panicked in half a second. Pulled out the emergency procedure guideline for bombs. Got started on all steps to start shutting down the entire division as a precaution and started pulling the call details. Told my one colleague about the call so he could take over the other inbound calls. Started to pick up the phone to call up other departments and the inbound phone rings again. My colleague, who was much older and experienced, told me, "Hold up, let me take this call." A few seconds pass and he screams out, "Is this Jeremy?" He waits a few seconds and slams the phone down. "Hey, oh yeah, that's Jeremy. He's actually a frequent caller who's institutionalized. Sometimes he gets away and runs off to the nurse's station and calls us. Happens every now and then. Cross-reference the phone number and log the call under Jeremy." Not 911 but search and rescue radio in Alaska. Late one evening in a winter blizzard. I got the call, "Coast Guard, we are going over." That's it. I never heard from the ship again. I did however find some other helpful souls and background info. After being in the water almost 6 hours in 34°F water, we picked them up. All 4 lived. One of my most intense nights ever. Former volunteer EMT here. We kept getting toned out one afternoon for stomach pain. Took forever to get a volunteer crew together to respond to this call. Turned out to be a middle schooler with a gunshot wound to the abdomen. The kid that called 911 didn't want to tell the dispatcher that he accidentally shot his friend with his dad's unsecured gun. My mother used to be a 999 UK 911 operator. She says the Vegas was heavy breathers as you couldn't tell whether it was someone injured who couldn't speak or just a pervert. I volunteered for the Samaritans suicide helpline, and the number of pervs who called to get their jiggle on was truly astounding. Cheaper than the premium hotlines, I guess. 911 operator at a 40 officer department took a 911 call. Female caller, get police over. Click. I attempted call back. No answer, straight to voicemail. Looked up history with the phone number in our report system, and neighboring city had contact with someone using that number just 2 months prior. Neighboring city does a check at the home and finds a vehicle that had gotten away from a police pursuit from our city earlier in the night. We go to the location and recover the vehicle, while the local department takes the person identified as the driver into custody on their local charges. Weird that it all stemmed from a less than 3-second phone call. That's why they always, at least try to, teach us in Poland that whenever you are calling emergencies, the first thing you say is the address. No hello, no get XXX, just say the address first, just in case something happens. 911 dispatcher in VA here. As far as vague goes, probably when a passerby called about a man sitting on a curb looking lonely. No description of the male and no legit location. Caller: I'm sitting at an intersection here in town and I saw this guy. Me: okay sir. Did the man appear to be in distress or suspicious in any way? Caller: no, I don't think so, but he seemed really lonely. Me: do you want me to send a unit to check his welfare? Caller: yes please. I mean, it may be nothing or he may be thinking about running into traffic and I think someone should talk to him. Me: do you remember where you saw him? Caller: no, on a curb near my family member's house. Me: okay, what's that address? Caller: gives address. Me: any idea where in relation to the house? Caller: no, all the streets here look the same. I'm from out of town. Me: do you have a description of the male? Is he WBH? What he is wearing? Caller: no, I didn't look at him really. I just drove by and looked lonely. Me: bash his head against console. All units be on the lookout for a male sitting. He may look lonely. My parents were once a vague call on my phone. I was driving them home from a wedding because they were way too inebriated to drive. At one point my BF texted me, so I handed my dad my phone to text him back. Somehow he managed to hit the emergency services button. Then yes. So they pick up, and I hear dad go oh, then he hangs up. So he gives the phone to my mom, and emergency services called back. I hear her say very loudly, hello? No, I'm fine. And I being what? Coerced? No. At this point I've pulled over and wrestled the phone from her, and then explained the situation. I felt so bad for the operator. Not to sound insensitive in this very serious thread, but I can only imagine the operator hearing a clearly drunk caller followed by a faint mom. Mom, give my phone back, mom. Got one where a lady reported that her neighbors were running an illegal taco stand. I have no idea what made it illegal. Neither did she. The officers went and cleared immediately. It was a party. They were giving away free tacos. Had a woman on the line who was locked in a bedroom after getting into a physical fight with her boyfriend but had no idea where she was, and she was incredibly difficult to understand. I asked her if she was in a home or apartment. She said apartment. I told her to look out the window and tell me what she saw. She said a red car and a blue car. Not much help there. So I asked her how many stories the apartment complex had and she said 3. This was obviously not a lot to go on, so I finally asked what the last thing she remembers seeing before they pulled into the apartment complex, and she said a Target. I knew there was a Target just outside our jurisdiction and a couple of 3-story apartments near there, but one in particular that we got called out to regularly. So I dispatched police. Meanwhile the boyfriend was beating down the door, literally, and was about to get in, so I knew it was urgent that we find her immediately. I hoped with all my heart that I sent police to the right place. When my officers pulled on scene, they reported seeing a red and a blue car, so I knew we were close, but we still didn't know which apartment. The boyfriend was about to burst in the room, so she hid under the bed, and when he finally broke down the door, I told her to run toward the front door and to scream as loud as she could. Which we're not really supposed to do, because if they get hurt after you give them an order, it can leave the PD liable. But she was frozen and needed help, and we needed to find her, or at least maybe someone would hear her scream and call us with an address. He came into the room. She slid out from under the bed and ran to the front door screaming. Burst outside, and my officers were right there. Turned out the reason she was so difficult to understand was because the bastard had knocked out her teeth. I'm so glad you managed to help her. My stepdad's fire station once got a call asking whether you should throw salt or sugar on a fire to put it out. I'm not sure if the call was transferred or they'd called the station directly. He asked why, and they responded that her and her husband disagreed on it. He asked if they had a fire, and they said well, yes, but they were just wondering which to use. He asked where, and they said oh, we're just behind the station to the east. He looked over and could see flames rolling out of their kitchen window. No, I don't need you to put it out. I just want to know which of these to use, because driving that thing over here is really expensive. Guy called 911 and said there was a bomb at our local Walmart. Very small town, so we advised our officers and went through the standard procedure of advising Walmart and having them close the store. In the meantime, we called the phone company and did some tracking on the phone. Guy was fired from Walmart that day and was picked up for making a terroristic threat. Fricked his life up doing that. Calling in is so much easier. We get a slimmed down transcript of the call taker's conversation on our computers when a call gets dispatched. A ton of them are just caller requests ambulance to X location. No further information, which is fine because at least then they usually send a cop car along with us in case something sketchy is going on. Incorrect information is often way worse than no information, because if it incorrectly comes over as something benign, they send us alone and we can end up alone on a scene that we should have police assistance on. Last week I had a fall from standing height leg injury turn out to be a shooting with a huge crowd of sketchy people on scene. And not long before that we had an abdominal pain turn out to be a guy who got stabbed in the abdomen. The abdominal pain dude wasn't lying. Just not specific enough to save his life if the stabber was still there. Not me, but my friend's dad in a 999 emergency operator, and he picked up a call. The caller just said help and hung up. By the time he sent the police, the house fire had nearly burnt the whole thing down. Oh no. Him in the army and work as a dispatcher on post. What is your emergency? Silence but sounds of breathing on the phone. Hello? Male, I need you to send special forces to my house because my mom took something and iced acting herself. So what is your address and number? We actually have a computer that tells us, but we double check in case of faulty system. Male, I can't give you that information. Special forces is coming for us. Sir, tell me about your mother. In what way is she not acting herself? Male, you already know. You can see it on your computers, can't you? Where is my mom? Mind you, the male sounds to be in adulthood and very slow slurred speech. So you just said she wasn't acting herself, so how do you even know that? But ask me where she is. Male, ooh, male, special forces already know. Hangs up. I tried to call back but no response. The caller wasn't even on post. Not an operator but an EMT. Major respect for our operators, as they have to get stories fourth or fifth hand and piece together a narrative for us on the ground. Got a call for a sick person. No other details except maybe an age. Arrived to find this guy very dead in his backyard. Judging by the state of his body, probably died 4-6 hours earlier. When I was actually a 911 operator, we had a mentally ill guy call in about once or twice a month because he thought that his neighbors were putting poison gas through his vents. However, when he would call, he would say, "They're doing it again," and then hang up. The first time I received the call, I had no clue what was happening, but since it was a fairly common occurrence, the officers knew what was up. A guy that lives in a very rural part of the county called once and said the KKK was going to kill him and then hung up. It's very sad because when the sheriff's deputy got out there was a cross burning on his lawn. As a former operator, I can say the more details you give, the better the agency can help you, in a general sense. However, I do know that people are not always in a spot to give those details. I've made a vague phone call before. Once, I was going into shock from a bee sting. I didn't know I was allergic until that moment. I attempted to call 911 and all I could manage was a hello. The operator asked me several pertinent questions but I couldn't remember my name or where I was, so after a few seconds of the operator asking if I was okay I just hung up because I didn't know what to say. They called back and I went through the same process. I was scared because I knew I was in danger but my brain didn't know how to communicate that. Luckily, the person whose house I was at gave me some Benadryl and made the call for me. She saved my life. Not 911 operator but firefighter. Got sent out to a major car accident. However, the info the caller gave was that it was on the highway anywhere between our town and a town 15 kilometers away. We had 3 brigades respond and each searched a third of the highway with no accidents to be seen. Dispatch called the original caller back but they said they couldn't provide more info as they are out of the area now. Former medic here. Call from a nursing home that said patient in wheelchair located in the lobby with breathing difficulties. Shortly before getting on scene turns into a full arrest, and upon my patient contact patient had been dead for at least a couple hours. Went from innocuous to dead guy in the lobby of the nursing home real quick. I'm a 911 operator, but a co-worker took the call. Went something like this. 911, where is your emergency? Caller provides address, and then bang. The guy shot himself in the head behind the barn and wanted first responders to find him before his family did. She said she stayed on the line and listened to him gurgle and struggle to breathe for a few minutes until EMS arrived. Jesus Christ, that's awful. To have the mental fortitude to stay on the line with him while he's bleeding out is incredible. I'm sure she is pretty scarred from that experience. Some girl calls saying her car was stolen. I'm asking questions. I ask which direction she last saw it headed. She says, we're passing Northern Boulevard now. WTF, I ask if she's in the car and she says yes. Stolen car call is now a kidnapping call. I'm asking her more questions. Police are scrambling. I then hear say, slow down babe, you're scaring me. Kidnapping call has now de-escalated to an angry girlfriend call. Police still find them and make sure everything's okay. I just laugh at the idea of him sitting there quietly while she describes to the police which direction they are headed. Know me, but a good buddy is a police officer and got radioed to look for a shirtless Hispanic man in a blue pickup truck. Not that vague, but after chasing him for over an hour and involving 30 police cars over 3 different jurisdictions, it was a guy with no driver's license and not the guy they were looking for. Not sure if this counts, but my friend's dad used to be a cop. And he got this radioed into him from a colleague. Injured woman in my town, name. Need backup. Nothing else. He tried responding back and got nothing. He eventually got into contact with him a few days later and I guess a woman had faked an injury and ended up attacking the officer. I was a caller here, but I was sick and on a multitude of drugs my doc had prescribed me. A woman came to my and my partner's house saying someone in the alley needed help and she was too scared to step in. I called 911 as my partner headed out to see what he could do. I followed shortly after. The woman who knocked quickly vanished. I asked for police but was absolutely no help to the 911 operator. Me. I need the police. Someone's hurt. 911. Who's hurt? Me. I don't know. Oh, I hear yelling. 911. Who's yelling? Me. I don't know. 911. What are they saying? Me. I don't know. 911. Is it a man or a woman? Me. Gosh, I don't know. It just kept going with me always answering. I don't know over and over. The police had no idea what they were walking into when they arrived, but it was a kidnap victim who'd escaped by jumping out of his own SUV that they'd taken him in and hightailing in into the alley to hide get help. He came back to our house 6 weeks later with a box of chocolates to thank us for helping him. I don't know is still a valid answer for us. And I'd take an I don't know any day over a why are you asking me all these questions? Or worse, the caller hanging up. Thanks for staying on the line and trying your best. Not me, but heard of a case where a domestic violence victim called emergency and it went somewhat like this. 911, what's your emergency? Hi, I'd like to order pizza. You realize you've called emergency? Yes. Can I get a Super Supreme? 911 operator realizes what's going on. Are you under duress and unable to speak but you need police help? Yes, that's right. My address is X. How long until the pizza arrives? 10 minutes. The pizza didn't show but cops did, and the abusive boyfriend was separated from his knife. I think that was on a TV ad about domestic violence awareness. I remember hearing the same one. That crap got to me. Not an operator, but many dispatch systems force you to file the call under a category. I can't tell you how many times I've been sent to the sick person. Probably the most confusing calls to deal with were the ones from cars auto dialing when they detected a collision. They only came through on certain call terminals set up to also receive the GPS data from the vehicle but would otherwise come through like any other 999 call. You'd essentially be placed in a conversation with a probably half concussed person very confused as to why their car dashboard was now talking to them. Many people didn't even know their car had the feature built in. I was the vague call once, but apparently not that vague, since they figured it out in a damned hurry. I was 3. I had just learned about 911. I vaguely remember wanting to test it to make sure it worked. I called, breathed for a few seconds, giggled, and hung up. Feeling that perhaps I might have done something wrong, I ran and hid behind the couch. In hindsight, this may have been a particularly boneheaded move, even for a 3-year-old, because 1. The couch was in the middle of an open floor plan and 2. Both my parents were sitting on the couch at the time. It was the equivalent of a cartoon fat person trying to hide behind a tree, if they were trying to hide from someone right on the other side of the tree. And also, you know, I kinda lived there. They'd find me eventually. At this point, the phone rings. As my mom tells the story, the dispatcher was quite straightforward. Dispatcher, hello, this is 911 returning your call. What is your emergency? Mom, blank confusion. Dispatcher, do you by any chance have any small children in your residence? Mom slowly turns around like a possessed person to make direct eye contact with me. Yes, we do. I will speak with him. It was not a pleasant conversation. Not a 911 operator, but I received a call from a hidden number. The man on the other side said it was rape and hung up on me. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. Me, a 911 dispatcher. What's your location? Caller, says name of town. Me, okay but where are you? C, my room. M, alright but where is that? C, my house. Not 911 but funny AF from one of my friends that is a ranger. They received a call from a guy who got lost in the mountains. They asked him, can you tell us where you are? He said, next to a tree. He was not kidding. Weird part is asking a lost person where they are. Half of them qualify as too vague to be useful to anyone. People will start talking while the phone is still ringing and I'll answer in the middle of a story. When you ask people what address they're at, you can get things like the name of the city, the corner store, sewer city of any other random generic name they decide for that part of the city, and my favorite my home and at my friend so and so's house, like that helps at all. Other fun ones include calling cause they were assaulted by a roommate lover relative, and all they'll do is yell to hurry up, without ever telling you where the frick they are, or their apartment number if you do manage to figure it out, and they don't know the last name of this person. Just some vague crap like Henry. They also can't give you any details of what color or type of clothing this person has on. And if you ask if they're white, black, Hispanic, they'll say yeah. It's not a yes or no question. Then you have the I'm on the interstate, and they can't tell you which direction they're going and give you locations that are physically impossible, like eastbound on I-95. And it's somewhere between these 2-mile markers that are 20 miles apart. For a reckless driver they saw 10-20 freaking minutes ago. It's red, dunno if it's a truck, SUV or sedan, didn't look at the license plate, but it's super important we stop them. Oh, and they pointed a gun at the caller. I was once written up for a call about prostitution. Predominantly black neighborhood at a corner store. She's a H. That's it. Wouldn't give me any physical description at all, and got pee when I asked how he knew. I asked what she was doing exactly to make him think that. He hangs up and calls the chief's office, before the call is even cleared. Yep, I had to send a cop out to essentially harass all the black women outside the store, minding their own business. I'm called to the office and written up for doing my job. Most people assume you know every building ever erected or demolished. No, I don't know where the old Kmart is. Just tell me you're at the freaking Best Buy. It's been Best Buy for over 9 freaking years. Today's winner was a 911 call and she's very mellow and half paying attention to the phone even though she called me. Caller. You're looking for Melvin. Generic butt name. 911. Is this someone there with you? What address are you at? Caller. No, you're looking for Melvin? He got warrants and I know where he at. 911. Fine. What's Melvin's middle name or birthday? Call. Now angry. I dunno. You're the one after him, not me. 911. Is Melvin wanted for something he did in our city? Caller. No, he did it 2 cities over. 911. Okay, is Melvin here in our city? Caller. No, he's somewhere in about 7 states away. What the frick? I-95, like most odd-numbered highways, runs north-south, not east-west. I had a person with a heavy Hispanic accent call from a 911 phone saying they were lost in the forest and very cold. They said they had been using the city lights to find their way but the snow was blocking it out and they were scared. Then they disconnected. Not a dispatcher but an EMT, responding to a call that goes over as anything really vague can suck. Best example for me so far, we get dispatched for the sick person. Guy just doesn't feel good, not enough details to give us more. To save the details, he was apparently having an aortic dissection. Usually, when somebody has one of these, they aren't found alive. He actually lived through it all though, all said, had something like a 15% chance of survival from arrival to discharge from rehab. Guy has an angel or the devil himself watching his back there. Suspicious person calls, as in, they can't say why he's suspicious, just something about him. Is he looking into houses? No. Is he checking door handles on cars? No. Then what's suspicious about him? You just have a bad feeling. I wasn't a 911 operator, but I was a clerk in a military emergency room and this probably fits the spirit of the question. I got a call around 2-3 am where person just shouted, "Send an ambulance now," and hung up before I could say anything. I had no contact with local emergency services. I actually had no contact with the military emergency services either. Basically I just shrugged and told my nurses that something crazy this way comes. About 20 minutes later a girl that worked in the general medicine clinic with my wife came in with her toddler. She was the one on the phone. She was a corpsman, Navy nurse, essentially. She worked in this hospital and should have known I didn't have that ability. She also lived on base, a 5-minute walk from my window. The reason for the visit? She picked up her son in the wee hours of the morning and he collapsed on her shoulder. He was sleepy. This wasn't even her only child. She had 2 other older children, sent home as a well baby check. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.